Hi, and welcome to the 2021 Economic Assessment Preparation Channel. I'm your host, Tony. Thank you so much for joining me. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button to get the absolute latest financial and economic news for the U.S. and the world. Today's topic is going to be one that's very important because during this time of the stimulus age and information age, the Goldman Sachs CEO, David Solomon, says 90% of small businesses have exhausted PPP funds. That's the Paycheck Protection Program funds that is supposed to be designed to keep these small businesses operating in times of need and times of uncertainty and to keep them from going bankruptcy and closing their doors for good. Well, Goldman has recently surveyed participants of its 10,000 small businesses program. This has been a decade-long effort that gives entrepreneurs access to training and capital, Solomon told the CNBC reporter. Small business owners have laid off workers and stopped taking salaries to stay afloat, Solomon said. Berkshire Hathaway CEO Warren Buffett also urged lawmakers to agree on a fresh round of support for small businesses. Buffett, who is co-chair of the Goldman's program's advisory council, has been involved with the small business group since its inaugural class. Mr. Solomon says they really have needs. 90% of them have exhausted their PPP funding at this point, Solomon told Becky Quick in a Squawk Box interview. More than half of them have had to lay off employees and really constrain their businesses. So now we have a situation where, in the midst of mega stimulus giving to the CEOs and buybacks and big corporations, the small businesses are suffering because many of these towns are going back into shutdown this year. As you know, as this supposedly this pandemic continues to rage, the numbers are getting higher and higher every week, every month. And the small businesses, they cannot survive being open only on 25% capacity open. And this is with outdoor dining and all of that. A lot of counties and cities are giving loan and stimulus money to help convert their indoor dining to outdoor dining. But who wants to sit outside when it's 30 degrees Fahrenheit, 40 degrees cold, and they have these heaters to try to keep people warm? But it's just not a very comfortable situation. And when it's cold and dry outside, germs tend to stick on tables, more linger on tables and chairs and cook and plates and silverware more frequently because of the cold, dry air of wintertime. So the business is suffering, and now the relief that the small businesses had hoped to come with are not helping. I know in many big cities like DC and downtown and other cities, a lot of the small business owners, like the restaurants and the barbershops and the hair salons and the gyms, are saying that even with the PPP, the Paycheck Protection funding, it's not enough to keep them afloat because they're already 6 to 7 months behind on commercial rent. And a lot of these commercial rents are extremely high. You're talking about thousands of dollars a month paid for that. They were already trying to make ends meet with less employees. A lot of these small businesses have, probably 50 or less employees running a lot of these facilities. And that's not to count those people who have tested positive. And they had to quarantine. They could not work. And a lot of these small bodegas, grocery stores are, stuff like that. So it is a hard strangle to the economy because right now, Mr. Solomon says, quote, "This is a huge employment engine for the economy and they're suffering right now," adding that more than half of business owners weren't taking a salary to keep their operations afloat. They need capital, liquidity to bridge them. They can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Well, it's ironic because small businesses have become collateral damage in a war that this country's fighting to wipe them out, to shut down these parts of the economy, but leave the big box stores, Walmart, Target, Costco, Sam's, leave them open with no social distancing. When you go to those stores like Walmart, next time you go to a Walmart, Costco, Sam's, look at the amount of people in there and look at the amount of social distancing that people are not practicing, even with masks. And they're allowed to stay open. There's no restrictions. There's no restrictions of lines of service with these self-checkout lines. There's no social distancing whatsoever. But unfortunately, the small businesses have become the casualty in this war against the U.S. economy, waged by the upper top 1% of 1% here. And so this is a planned demolition, intentional demolition of small businesses, intentional demolition of the U.S. economy to bring everyone to their knees, to the big 5 people or 6 people who run things, not just in the United States, or 7 people that run things, not just in the United States, but in the world. And so we have to be very, very concerned when we see this, because this is exactly what many experts have been predicting years ago around the 2008 crash, that we would see, that they would try to paper over it. They would try to get the small businesses to exhaust all of their money, so they would be in debt to the government, and the government would just come in and take over, and the rich people, which they're working together, the ultra rich people working together in this kind of communist fascist system to take over the small businesses, take over the homes, and they own everything and we own nothing. That is the ultimate plan. And this is why I stress that we must become self-sufficient. We must learn to do things for ourselves, whether that's growing our own food, whether that's supporting small businesses on a more grassroots level, not on a level where we're depending upon the government to give more loans, which must be paid back, but more on a grassroots level where we have our own network amongst our communities and friends, that we share food, share supplies, things of that nature. We're going to have to go back to that in America, because the standard of living is going to be dropping fast as these small businesses do not come back online. They have to file for bankruptcy because they know that these loans have to be paid. Even with the loans, they can't make it. So the standard of living in the U.S. is going to drop. Retail sales decline further, and there's lack of fiscal stimulus weighs. Retail sales have been down 2% the last month of November and December of this year, and now we're in 2021. That's no surprise, but just letting you know that because of everything that's going on, we have to be prepared. We have to continue, because this thing is not going away. This infection is not going away. This economy depression is not going away. We're in it for the next 10 to 12 years, guaranteed. And regardless of who's in office on January 20th, whether Trump stays in or this Biden guy gets in, it does not matter, because it's already set in stone that they're going to reset this economy, take all of the money that it was in these small businesses is going back to the rich man, back to the big 5-6 billionaires that have all the money. And so that's what we have to prepare. Regardless of where you stand at and where you live at in this country, it's going to affect everybody from top to bottom, besides the top 1%, obviously, because they have lands and all these buildings, they own all this stuff. But eventually the piper has to be paid, and this year is going to be the first year that we're going to see the consequences of having the small businesses gone. Well, we have to depend on the Walmarts, the Costco's, the Sam's, the BJ's, the Amazons, the Microsofts, the Facebooks. We're going to depend on them for everything, for our internets, our foods, and we're going to see the dangerous consequences of having 5 or 6 or 7 people control the majority of things. It used to didn't be this way. It used to didn't have monopolies grow, but the antitrust laws have become so lax. Politicians have been bought. You can pay anybody. Money is the god. You can pay anybody to do anything. You can pay them to do whatever, and they'll do it. They'll approve whatever. And so this is a very dangerous precedent that's being set. Remember now, more than over $4 trillion have been spent in this sickness relief. It's already been depleted, okay? And now with this additional stimulus bill, we're looking at a total of almost $7 trillion in government spending for this whole sickness relief that they claim is helping Main Street when it's really helping Wall Street. And that's why the stock market continues to rise to unbelievable levels, because it's based on nothing. It's based on the Federal Reserve coming in and pumping a bunch of fake money, funny money into this thing to keep it afloat. But eventually that's going to become crashing down. And when it does, I want you to be ready and prepared, you and your family and your friend as well. So continue to stack, continue to prepare. I'll talk to you very soon. Thank you very much.